to announce new defence structure. Plane crashes into Brazilian city, killing all on board. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Mohana Priya. 2 weeks after seizing power in a sweeping offensive, Syria's new leader, Ahmed al-Shara, said weapons in the country, including those held by Kurdish-led forces, would come under state control. Shara spoke alongside Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan after earlier meeting with Lebanese Druze leaders.
فهناك خلال أيام سيعلن عن وزارة الدفاع وستشكل لجنة من قيادات عسكرية كبيرة لرسم هيكلية جديدة للجيش السوري القادم ثم ستبدأ الفصائل بالإعلان عن حل نفسها والدخول تباعاً.
Shara said the new government will not allow there to be weapons in the country outside state control, whether from the revolutionary factions or the factions present in the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces area. He also said his administration is working on protecting sects and minorities from any attacks that occur between them and from external actors exploiting the situation to cause sectarian discord. Turkey's Fidan meanwhile said sanctions on Syria must be lifted as soon as possible. He called for the international community to mobilize in order to help Syria get back on its feet and for the displaced people to return. Syria's nearly 14-year civil war killed more than 500,000 people and displaced more than half of its population, with many of them fleeing to neighboring countries, including Turkey. Meanwhile, the visiting head of a UN investigative body for Syria said it is possible to find more than enough evidence to convict people of crimes against international law. However, he said there is an immediate need to secure and preserve the evidence. The doors of Syria's prisons were flung open after an opposition forces alliance ousted longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad this month, with families rushing to former prisons, detention centers and alleged mass graves to find any trace of disappeared relatives. Many have expressed concern about safeguarding documents and other evidence. Robert Petit, who heads the International Impartial and Independent Mechanism, said there is a possibility of finding more than enough evidence left behind to convict those that should be prosecuted. However, he noted that preserving evidence would need a lot of coordination between all the different actors.
It needs, first of all, the engagement of the authorities to preserve that evidence. Granted, they have a lot right now to focus on, but preserving that evidence has to be part of that, and we've heard the messaging that they are conscious of that and they are willing to work on that.
According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitor, more than 100,000 people died in Syria's jails and detention centers since 2011. Israeli strikes killed at least 35 Palestinians across the territory more than 14 months into the Israel-Hamas war. The violence came even as Palestinian groups involved in the fighting said a ceasefire deal is closer than ever. On the ground in Gaza, Civil Defense Agency spokesman Mahmoud Basal said at least 13 people were killed in an airstrike on a house in central Gaza's Deir al-Balah belonging to the Abu Samra family. Residents searched through the debris for survivors while others were looking for belongings they could salvage. The Israeli military confirmed a separate strike further north on a school in Gaza City. Basal said 8 people, including 4 children, were killed in the attack in the school, which had been repurposed as a shelter for Palestinians displaced by the war. It was the latest of numerous similar attacks against schools turned shelters during the conflict. Basal said that a separate strike killed at least 3 people in Rafah in the south, and a drone strike hit a car in Gaza City, killing 4 people. The Civil Defense Agency said 7 other people were killed when Israeli drones struck tents in the humanitarian area of Al-Mawasi in western Khan Yunis. Israel has faced growing criticism of its actions during the war, including from rights groups accusing it of acts of genocide. In a related development, just 12 trucks distributed food and water in northern Gaza in 2.5 months, raising the alarm over the worsening humanitarian situation in the besieged territory. Aid group Oxfam said that the meager 34 trucks of food and water given permission to enter the North Gaza Governorate over the last 2.5 months, deliberate delays and systematic obstructions by the Israeli military caused only 12 who managed to distribute aid to starving Palestinians. Oxfam and other international aid groups have been continually prevented from delivering life-saving aid in northern Gaza since 6 October this year, when Israel intensified its bombardment of the territory. Oxfam said thousands of people are estimated to still be cut off from supplies, but with humanitarian access blocked, it is impossible to know the exact numbers. It added, at the beginning of December, humanitarian organizations operating in Gaza were receiving calls from vulnerable people trapped in homes and shelters that had completely run out of food and water. In a report focused on water, New York-based Human Rights Watch on Thursday detailed what it called deliberate efforts by Israeli authorities of a systematic nature to deprive Gazans of water, which had likely caused thousands of deaths and will likely continue to cause fatalities. Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to bring more destruction to Ukraine in retaliation for a drone attack on the central Russian city of Kazan. Russia accused Ukraine of a massive drone attack that hit a luxury apartment block in the city, some 1,000 kilometers from the frontier. Videos on Russian social media networks showed drones hitting a high-rise glass building and setting off fireballs, though there were no reported casualties as a result of the strike. The strike on Kazan was the latest in a series of escalating aerial attacks in the nearly 3-year conflict. Putin had previously threatened to target the center of Kiev with a hypersonic ballistic missile in response to Ukrainian attacks on Russian territory. And the defense ministry has called Russian strikes on Ukrainian energy facilities over recent weeks retaliatory hits for Kiev using Western-supplied missiles to attack Russian air bases and arms factories. The latest threat comes as Russia claimed fresh advances on the battlefield in East Ukraine. The defense ministry said its troops had captured the villages of Lozova in the northeastern Kharkiv region and Krasnoye, called Skontsevka in Ukraine. Russia has accelerated its advance across eastern Ukraine in recent months, looking to secure as much territory as possible before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump comes to power in January. And on a related note, Finland's Prime Minister Petteri Orpo said that Russia is a permanent and dangerous threat to the EU and stressed the need for increased defense spending and support for Ukraine. Orpo hosted a summit on security and immigration with EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson, and Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis. Speaking to reporters after the meeting, the Finnish head of government said Europe's defense must be strengthened by all possible means through exploration of all financial options.
We must continue to support Ukraine for as long and as much as needed. We must strengthen them both in the front and in the negotiation table. It is an existential security question for Europe.
Orpo also said that securing Finland's border with Russia is an existential question for Finland and for other EU members and NATO allies. Still ahead, Trump threatens to retake control of Panama Canal. A small plane carrying 10 people crashed into shops in the center of the tourist city of Gramado in southern Brazil, killing everyone on board. The aircraft owner and pilot died along with the other 9 passengers, all of whom were members of his family. In addition, 17 people on the ground were injured, with 12 still receiving hospital care, including 2 in critical condition. Manufactured in 1990, the twin-engine Piper PA-42-1000 took off shortly after 9 a.m. local time from nearby Canela Airport and was heading to Jundiaí in Sao Paulo state under unfavorable weather conditions. The cause of the crash is being investigated by the Aeronautical Accident Investigation and Prevention Center. Authorities said the plane reportedly first struck the chimney of a building, then the second floor of a house before crashing into a furniture store. Nestled in a mountainous region, Gramado is the most popular tourist destination in Rio Grande do Sul. The accident occurred just days before Christmas, a particularly busy period for the city, which is traditionally adorned with decorations and hosts festive events. In southwest Turkey, meanwhile, 4 people were killed when an ambulance helicopter collided with a hospital building and crashed into the ground. The helicopter was taking off from the Mughla Training and Research Hospital, carrying 2 pilots, a doctor and another medical worker. The cause of the accident, which took place during heavy fog, is being investigated. Footage from the site showed debris from the crash scattered around the area outside the hospital building, with several ambulances and emergency teams at the scene. Nigerian police have raised the total death toll from 2 stampedes at food distribution centers to 32 as the country grappled with a spate of deadly crowd crushes at charity events. 22 people were killed on Saturday as people queued outside a center distributing rice in the southern town of Okija. And on the same day, a separate stampede outside a church giving food to the vulnerable and elderly in the capital Abuja killed at least 10 people, prompting Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu to clear his schedule in the wake of the twin tragedies. The investigation into the unfortunate incidents is still ongoing. Police pointed to similarities between Saturday's incidents and a stampede at a school funfair in the southwestern city of Ibadan on Thursday that killed 35 children. Faced with skyrocketing food prices, many Nigerians have been forced to queue for charity handouts for hours just to get enough to eat. Part of the rise in inflation stems from Tinubu's move to end a costly fuel subsidy and currency controls, which has led the naira currency's value to plummet. The German government has pledged to fully investigate whether there were security lapses before the Christmas market car ramming attack that killed 5 people and injured over 200 others. Political pressure has built on the question of potential missed warnings about Saudi suspect Talib al-Abdul Mohsin, a 50-year-old psychiatrist who had made online death threats and previously had trouble with the law. Interior Minister Nancy Faeser and the heads of Germany's domestic and foreign intelligence services are due to answer questions at parliamentary committee hearings on the 30th of December. News magazine Der Spiegel, citing security sources, said Saudi Secret Service had warned Germany's spy agency a year ago about Abdul Mohsin. Die Welt Daily reported, also citing security sources, that Germany state and federal police had carried out a risk assessment on Abdul Mohsin last year, but concluded that he posed no specific danger. Meanwhile, several hundred people had gathered for a vigil in Magdeburg yesterday. Families and people of all ages came to the Johannskirche Church, the city's main place of mourning. Many had tears in their eyes and embraced one another. They stood silently looking at an ever-growing sea of flowers. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to reassert U.S. control over the Panama Canal. He accused Panama of charging excessive rates to use the Central American Passage, which allows ships to cross between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Speaking to a crowd of supporters in Arizona, Trump also said he will not let the canal fall into the wrong hands, warning of potential Chinese influence on the passage.
Canal like we're being ripped off everywhere else. It was not given for the benefit of others by a token of cooperation, but it was given to Panama and to the people of Panama, but it has provisions. You got to treat us fairly, and they haven't treated us fairly. If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America in full, quickly, and without question. I'm not going to stand for it. So to the officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly.
China does not control nor administer the canal, but a subsidiary of Hong Kong-based C.K. Hutchinson Holdings had long managed two ports located on the Caribbean and Pacific entrances to the canal. The Panamanian embassy in Washington did not respond to a request for comment. The United States largely built the canal and administered territory surrounding the passage for decades. But the United States and Panama signed a pair of accords in 1977 that paved the way for the canal's return to full Panamanian control. The United States handed over control of the canal in 1999 after a period of joint administration. Tens of thousands of people have gathered in central Belgrade to protest against President Aleksandar Vučić and his ruling Serbian Progressive Party, whom they blame for a railway station roof collapse last month that killed 15 people. The concrete awning of the recently renovated roof of Novi Sad station caved in on the 1st of November. Opposition leaders and the public have taken to the streets repeatedly, blaming the accident on shoddy construction resulting from government corruption and nepotism. The protesters switched on the lights of their mobile phones and stood in silence for 15 minutes to commemorate the victims.
Prevashodno zato što još uvek nisam izgubila nadu da ova država može da bude uređena pravna država sa vladavinom prava, institucijama i slobodnim građanima. To bi najkraće bilo zašto sam ovdje.
Sljedeći korak je blokada institucija. Tako da ne vidim drugi način. Znači mora da postoji jasan pritisak na vlast.
Serbian news agency Tanjug quoted the Internal Affairs Ministry as saying that the crowd in Belgrade was up to 29,000 people. In Peru, a police officer dressed as the Christmas character Grinch led a police operation in Lima to dismantle a drug trafficking gang. The agent, dressed up as the famous character created by author Dr. Seuss, entered into the home of a family of alleged drug dealers in San Bartolo, southern Lima.
Con motivo de las fiestas navideñas, utilizando el ingenio y la astucia del grupo Terna, utilizamos al Grinch. Después de una actividad por Navidad, pasó desapercibido la presencia de Grinch, fue el que inició el operativo, rompiendo la puerta de acceso y bajo la figura de flagrancia logramos capturar a estas 3 vendedoras de drogas que hoy día serán puestos a disposición de la autoridad judicial competente.
Police said they seized several small packets of cocaine and cash in the operation. The police unit involved often dresses its agents up as famous characters while they carry out operations during holiday periods, such as Halloween and Christmas. Agents have also dressed up as superheroes, as well as horror movie characters Freddy Krueger and Jason. On to some stories we're following from the ASEAN region. Indonesian Communications and Digital Minister Mutia Hafid has stated that the government has established 5 key priorities within its National Artificial Intelligence or AI utilization strategy. They include health services, bureaucratic reform, talent education, smart city development and food security. Regarding health services, the minister remarked that the Ministry of Health employs AI to enhance service accessibility and improve diagnostic accuracy. The technology facilitates early disease detection and streamlines hospital management. She also emphasized that AI is crucial, driving force for bureaucratic reform, claiming that government agencies have successfully implemented AI-based data processing, reducing operational time and costs. In the realm of talent education, the minister noted that AI can be effectively tailored to individual learning needs. The implementation of independent learning methodologies and the provision of online training materials offer flexible access to educational resources for participants. She highlighted that AI-powered data, traffic integration and management are crucial for the successful development of smart city mobility. She also emphasized the role of AI in achieving food security by optimizing the productivity of food crop agriculture and effectively managing agricultural land. Thousands of selfie-taking Ho Chi Minh City residents crammed into train carriages as the traffic-clogged business hub celebrated the opening of its first ever metro line after years of delays. Huge queues spilled out of every station along the $1.7 billion line that runs almost 20 kilometers from the city center.
Em vẫn rất là hứng là tại vì kiểu lần đầu tiên được đi, tại vì em đã coi nhiều cái trên mạng á, tại vì ở nhiều nước khác thì cũng có rất là nhiều chuyến như vậy, thì đến bây giờ thì nước mình mới có, em cũng rất là tự hào.
Ông chờ cũng khoảng 10 năm từ bắt đầu xây dựng. Ông thấy là xây dựng từ đây đi ra, ông hai đi bên ngoài, ông thấy là đến hôm nay là đã thoải mái rồi để đi trải nghiệm cái tàu này.
It took 17 years for Vietnam's commercial capital to reach this point. The project, funded largely by Japanese government loans, was first approved in 2007 and slated to cost just $668 million. When construction began in 2012, authorities promised the line would be up and running in just 5 years. But as delays mounted, cars and motorbikes multiplied in the city of 9 million people, making the metropolis hugely congested, increasingly polluted and time-consuming to navigate. According to state media reports, the metro was late because of slow capital disbursement, unexpected technical problems, personnel difficulties, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Next up in sports, Liverpool thrashed Spurs to extend lead at the top. Kicking off our sports segment with football, Liverpool extended their lead at the top of the Premier League to 4 points with a dominant but chaotic 6-3 win at Tottenham Hotspur thanks to doubles from Luis Diaz and Mohamed Salah. Diaz met Trent Alexander-Arnold's beautiful cross with a diving header to open the scoring before Alexis McAllister nodded home from close range to double Liverpool's lead. James Maddison pulled one back 4 minutes before half-time after McAllister was dispossessed in midfield by Dejan Kulusevski to give the hosts a route back into the contest. But Dominik Szoboszlai scored in first half added time to restore the Reds' 2-goal lead and give Spurs a mountain to climb. Salah netted twice in 7 second-half minutes, passing Liverpool great Billy Liddell on the club's all-time scoring list with his 14th and 15th league goals of the season to make it 5-1 and send some Spurs fans heading to the exits. Dejan Kulusevski's volley was followed by Dominic Solanke's 83rd minute goal to give Spurs hope of an unlikely comeback before Diaz made it 6-3 2 minutes later and finish a madcap contest that could have had even more goals. Liverpool are top with 39 points from 16 games, 4 points above second-place Chelsea, who have played a game before. Spurs, meanwhile, remain in the 11th place with 23 points from 17 games. And in another match, Bournemouth thrashed Manchester United 3-0 at a chilly Old Trafford and climbed to 5th in the table thanks to goals from Dean Hussein, Justin Kluivert and Antoine Semenyo. Huijsen put the visitors on the score sheet when he outjumped Joshua Zirkzee to hit home Ryan Christie's free kick in the 29th minute. United have been plagued by set-piece issues, giving up 2 goals from corner kicks against Arsenal and then 1 against Nottingham Forest earlier this month. While United peppered Bournemouth with shots late in the first half, including 3 from captain Bruno Fernandes, it was the visitors who put the game away with 2 goals within 2 minutes early in the second half. Kluivert scored from the penalty spot in the 61st minute, awarded after Nusar Mazrouri brought down the Dutch winger, sending keeper Andre Onana the wrong way. The delighted Bournemouth fans were still celebrating when Dango Kotara swept a pass to Semenyo inside the box 2 minutes later. United defender Lisandro Martinez put up a little resistance as Semenyo unleashed a hard shot past Onana. Bournemouth's 4th league victory in 5 matches moved them to 28 points after 17 games, while United are 13th with 22 points and will spend Christmas in the bottom half of the table for the first time in Premier League history. Over in the La Liga, Real Madrid forward Kylian Mbappe netted the opener and set up another goal as the hosts beat mid-table Sevilla 4-2 to move up to second place and close the gap on Atletico Madrid to 1 point going into the winter break. Mbappe scored with a thunderbolt from outside the box in the 10th minute, and before Sevilla could recover, Federico Valverde also pulled the trigger from long range that gave Sevilla goalkeeper Alvaro Fernandez no chance. Rodrigo fired home the third in the 34th minute from a cross by Lucas Vazquez, but Sevilla scored immediately after kickoff when Isaac Romero headed in a cross from Juan Luis Sanchez. However, Ibrahim Diaz restored the home side's 3-goal cushion 8 minutes after restart when he finished off a clever move after Mbappe and Vazquez combined to set him up. Sevilla managed to score another consolation when Piqué Fernandez found Dodi Lukebakio making a run and made an incisive pass for the Belgian midfielder to score at the near post. The victory moved Real to 40 points, 2 points clear of Barcelona, who are third and have played a game more than the 2 teams from Madrid. Sevilla, meanwhile, are in 14th place with 22 points. And that wraps up World Today. In our top story today, Syrian leader to announce new defense structure. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and Salora and Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Mohana Priya. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for your company.